The human warrior stepped off his small spaceship onto the alien planet. The air was thick, strange, and smelled like metal mixed with flowers he had never seen before. He looked around. Towering cliffs of glowing crystal surrounded him, and the ground beneath his boots hummed softly, almost as if it were alive. He took a deep breath and tightened his grip on his sword. This was not Earth. This was something different, something dangerous and beautiful. Far above him, a castle floated in the sky. Its walls shimmered with colors that shifted and danced like liquid. The warrior's eyes widened. How could a castle float like that? And who lived in a place like that? Suddenly, a voice called down from the sky. It was melodic, teasing, and carried a hint of laughter. "You look lost, human," the voice said. The warrior turned his head and saw her. The alien princess stood on a balcony high above, her hair glowing like the stars, her eyes sharp and bright. She wore a gown that shimmered with colors that changed with every movement. She tilted her head and smiled. "Do you always wander into places you do not belong?" The human swallowed hard. I'm exploring," he said. His voice sounded small to him, but he forced it to be steady. The princess laughed. It was a musical sound that echoed across the cliffs. She waved her hand, and small orbs of light floated down from the sky. They danced around the warrior, teasing him. Some swirled close, then zipped away just before he could touch them. The warrior's eyes narrowed. What are you?" he asked. "I am what you cannot handle," she said, grinning. Yet, the warrior took a cautious step forward. He felt the tension rise in his chest. Something about her smile made him uneasy. It was playful, yes, but there was power behind it. He had heard stories of alien princesses, tales of beings stronger than any human, but this was real. He reached for his sword, but the princess tilted her head, and suddenly the sword felt heavier, as if the gravity around it had changed. He frowned, struggling to lift it. The princess giggled. "You will need more than that to impress me." The human warrior's heart pounded. He had faced enemies before, monsters and warlords, but this was different. He could not see her power, not fully. It was hidden in the way she moved, in the flicker of her hands, in the playful glance in her eyes. She seemed fragile yet dangerous. "Come closer," she said suddenly. Her voice was soft now, almost a whisper, yet it carried across the distance. The warrior hesitated. Something inside him screamed to be careful, but curiosity was stronger than fear. He took a step forward. The orbs of light moved aside, forming a path leading to the floating castle. As he walked, he noticed strange plants along the cliffs. They glowed faintly, their leaves pulsing like tiny hearts. A soft wind blew, carrying whispers he could not understand. It was as if the planet itself was alive, watching him. Suddenly, the princess appeared on the ground, not on the balcony. The warrior stumbled back. How did she move so fast? She smiled again. "Do not be afraid," she said. "I will not hurt you." Yet the warrior studied her. She looked human in shape, but everything else was different. Her skin shimmered faintly. Her eyes were the color of burning gold, and her presence made the air feel heavier. He felt small, unprepared, but also strangely drawn to her. I mean no harm," he said. "Good," she said, circling him slowly. Her movement was light, graceful, and teasing. She stopped suddenly and tapped his shoulder lightly. "But you must learn quickly. This world is not kind to the weak." The warrior nodded, though he was not sure what to say. He felt tension rising like a storm inside him. He wanted to ask questions, to understand, but every instinct told him to watch, to wait. "Do you play games, human?" the princess asked. Her eyes sparkled with mischief. "Or do you only fight?" The warrior blinked. "I fight," he said carefully. She laughed, a sound that made his stomach tighten. "Then we shall see," she said. She flicked her fingers, and the orbs of light swirled around him again. Faster this time, almost like they were dancing to a secret rhythm. He tried to strike at them with his sword, but each time they slipped through his grasp, laughing in their own silent way. The warrior's heart raced. He had never faced anything like this. Not monsters, not armies, nothing had moved like this. And the princess? She seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at the same time, always teasing, always out of reach. Then, a deep voice cut through the air. "Enough!" The princess froze. Her golden eyes widened, and the orbs of light vanished instantly. She bowed her head slightly. The human warrior looked around and saw her mother approaching, a figure taller than any human, radiating authority and power. The air seemed to shiver as she stepped forward. Even the glowing plants bent slightly away from her presence. The warrior felt a chill. He realized for the first time that this was not just a playful princess. She was part of a world he barely understood. And her mother? He could only guess at the danger she posed. The princess whispered something to him, a smile still lingering on her lips, but her eyes showed worry. "This is only the beginning," she said. The human warrior nodded slowly, gripping his sword tighter. He did not understand this world yet, but he knew one thing. Surviving here would be far more difficult than he ever imagined. And so, on this strange planet, under the watchful eyes of an alien princess and her powerful mother, the warrior took his first cautious steps into a story far bigger than himself. The floating castle seemed to pulse with life as the human warrior stepped closer. The air shimmered, carrying the faint hum of power that made the hairs on his arms stand on end. He had expected danger from the princess, but now, with her mother nearby, the tension became sharper, heavier. The princess walked beside him, her steps light, almost floating above the ground. "You are brave," she said softly, "but bravery alone will not keep you alive here." The warrior swallowed. "Then what will?" he asked, gripping his sword tighter. Her golden eyes sparkled with mischief. "Cleverness," she said, "and a little courage, but mostly cleverness." Without warning, she flicked her hand. The ground beneath them trembled. Panels of glowing stone rose from the earth, forming a platform that stretched into the sky, twisting and turning like a giant stairway. "Welcome to your first test," she said. The warrior blinked. "Test?" "Yes," the princess said, spinning around, her gown flowing like liquid light. "If you survive, you may prove yourself worthy. If you fail, well, we shall see." The platform shifted beneath his feet. He took a cautious step forward, then another. The stones moved, twisting, turning, and sometimes disappearing entirely, leaving only air. His heart raced. Each step required focus, courage, and timing. He stumbled once, and a sudden gust of wind nearly knocked him off balance. The princess laughed, and the sound rang like bells, light and teasing, but it carried a warning. "You are slow," she said, circling him. "Do you always stumble when danger comes?" I am learning," the warrior said, keeping his voice steady. "Learning is good," she said, "but learning too slowly can be deadly here." She raised her hand, and suddenly, glowing orbs of light appeared again. This time they darted around him like living arrows, twisting through the air, blocking his path. The warrior swung his sword, trying to strike them, but they moved too fast. He felt frustration rise in his chest. This was not a fight he could win with strength. "You must think," the princess said. "Your sword will not save you." The warrior glanced around, noticing patterns in the orb's movements. Each orb followed a rhythm, a small pause before striking. He waited, then timed his step carefully, slipping through the lights. A rush of excitement surged through him as he made it across. The princess clapped softly. "Well done, clever. And a bit lucky. Luck can be dangerous, though. Don't rely on it too much." The warrior nodded, sweat forming on his brow. "What happens if I fail?" The princess's eyes darkened slightly. "Then, you face my mother." At the mention of her mother, the warrior's stomach tightened. He remembered the figure he had seen earlier, powerful and commanding, and he shivered. He realized that this playful princess could be dangerous, yes, but her mother was something entirely different. The platform suddenly shifted again. This time it split into several narrow paths. Some were smooth and stable, while others twisted and wobbled like snakes. The warrior's mind raced. One wrong step and he could fall into the abyss below. The princess floated above him, smiling but watching closely. "Choose wisely," she said. "Not all paths are what they seem." He took a deep breath and stepped onto the narrowest path. It wobbled dangerously, but he forced himself to focus, to place each foot carefully. He felt a rush of fear and excitement. This was not just a test of strength. It was a test of will, of control, of thought under pressure. Halfway across, a section of the platform shifted suddenly, tilting at a steep angle. The warrior's heart leaped into his throat. He slid a step, then another, barely keeping his balance. The orbs of light darted back, swarming around him in patterns more complex than before. His arms moved instinctively, blocking and striking, but the real test was timing, waiting for the right moment to move. Finally, he reached a stable platform. He exhaled, his chest heaving. The princess floated down beside him. Her expression was unreadable for a moment, then she smiled. "You did not fail," she said softly. "But you are far from done." The warrior tried to speak, but his throat was dry. He swallowed and nodded. He had survived the first challenge, but he knew instinctively that each test would grow harder. "Do you think," the princess asked, tilting her head, "that you are ready for the next one?" I will try," he said. She laughed lightly, and this time it carried something different, a hint of admiration. "Good," she said. "Try, human. But remember here, mistakes are not just painful, they can be deadly." The wind shifted suddenly, carrying a low hum that made the warrior's skin tingle. In the distance he saw a shadow moving, her mother observing silently from a platform above. The warrior realized for the first time that this was not just a playful test. Every step, every choice was being watched. The princess whispered close to him, her voice soft. "Do not let fear rule you, use it. Let it sharpen your senses." The warrior nodded. He had faced battles before, but none like this. This was not just physical skill. It was a mental game, a challenge of courage, cleverness, and instinct. And the stakes were higher than he could imagine. The princess floated a step ahead, turning to glance back at him. "Follow me," she said. "The next part of your test begins now." As they moved forward, the warrior felt a strange mixture of fear and excitement. The alien world was beautiful, dangerous, and alive. The princess was teasing, powerful, and unpredictable. And somewhere above, her mother watched silently, waiting. He took a deep breath, gripping his sword, and stepped into the unknown. The human warrior followed the princess across the shifting platforms of the floating castle. Every step he took made the air hum with energy. The orbs of light no longer played around him. They had vanished, leaving only silence and the faint crackle of the alien world. The princess moved effortlessly ahead, her gown glowing softly. She glanced back at him, her golden eyes sparkling with mischief. "Do not think that surviving the first test means safety," she said. "The real challenge is about to begin." The warrior swallowed. "The real challenge?" His voice sounded small even to himself. "Yes," she said softly, almost teasingly. "This is where fear becomes real." As they turned a corner, the air shifted. A low rumbling sound filled the corridor. The glowing walls seemed to pulse faster, brighter, as if alive and aware. The warrior felt a chill run down his spine. He had faced monsters and hostile warriors before, but this presence was something else entirely. Then a voice rang out, deep and commanding. "Enough, child," the princess froze. Her shoulders tensed and her eyes widened slightly. The warrior instinctively reached for his sword. He had never heard a voice like this. It was not just loud. It carried weight, power, and authority that pressed against his chest. From the shadows, a figure stepped forward. Taller than any human, her presence radiated strength. Her hair glimmered like liquid silver and her eyes were dark, filled with authority. This was the princess's mother. The air around her seemed to bend slightly, as if even the castle itself respected her power. "Bend now," the voice said. It was not a suggestion. It was a command that echoed through the warrior's bones. The princess flinched. "Mother," she whispered, her usual playfulness gone. The human warrior froze. He had heard the warning, understood it, but instinct told him this was far more serious than anything he had faced before. "Bend now," the mother repeated, her tone sharper, carrying no patience. The air around her shimmered, and the ground beneath the warrior trembled. He realized that this command was not for him, but he felt its force anyway. The princess's golden eyes lowered to the ground, and she bowed slowly, almost reluctantly. "Yes, mother," she said softly. The orbs of light reappeared, swirling around her in a controlled, mesmerizing dance. The human warrior's heart pounded. He watched uncertain. He had no idea what would happen if he stepped forward, or if he remained still. The princess's mother's gaze swept over him briefly, sharp and assessing. It was clear she knew he was not of their world, yet she did not attack. Instead, she studied him, as if weighing his worth. "You do not belong here," she said finally, her voice softer, yet still commanding. "Yet you are bold. Bold and perhaps foolish." The warrior swallowed hard, gripping his sword tightly. I mean no harm," he said. "Meaning no harm?" She echoed, her eyes narrowing. "Foolish words. Actions speak louder than words. Courage without caution is meaningless." The princess glanced at him, her usual teasing smile gone. "Do not move," she whispered. "Do exactly as she says." The human warrior nodded, though fear surged through him. He had survived tests, faced danger, and now stood in front of power unlike anything he had ever known. Every instinct screamed that one wrong move could end him. Your presence here disturbs the balance, the mother continued. This world is not yours. And yet, she paused, her eyes resting briefly on the warrior's face. You have survived the first test. You may have potential, perhaps even worth keeping alive. The warrior's chest tightened. The words were both a warning and a challenge. He understood that survival alone was not enough. He needed to prove himself, not just with strength, but with intelligence and courage. The princess's mother stepped closer, and the air shifted again. The floating platforms trembled under her presence. This is your warning, she said, her voice low and deliberate. Do not underestimate the rules of this world. Obey them or you will pay the price. The warrior nodded again, his mind racing. He had never felt fear like this, not in battle, not in war. This was fear sharpened, focused, a test of his mind and spirit as much as his body. The princess, still bowed slightly, whispered, Mother tests me to see if I can control my own power. She tests you to see if you belong at all. The warrior looked at her. Belong? He asked quietly. The princess straightened slightly. Belonging here is not about being strong. It is about understanding, about courage and control. If you fail, it will not be the princess who punishes you. It will be her mother. The human warrior swallowed hard, his eyes meeting the mother's again. Her gaze was sharp, unyielding, and filled with expectation. He realized that surviving the first test had been only the beginning. The real danger, the real challenge, was just ahead. The mother turned, her figure disappearing into the shadows, leaving the corridor silent and tense. The platforms stopped moving and the glowing walls dimmed slightly. The princess looked at the warrior, a mix of playfulness and caution returning to her golden eyes. Now you understand, she said softly, this is no game. Every step, every choice matters. The warning is clear. Fail, and it will cost more than pain. The warrior nodded, his grip tightening on his sword. He felt the weight of the world pressing down on him, the stakes higher than ever. Yet beneath the fear, a spark of determination ignited. He had come to this planet as a stranger, unprepared for its dangers. But now he understood one thing. Surviving was not enough. He needed to be clever, fast, and brave, and somehow he needed to earn the respect of this alien world, before it judged him too harshly. The princess stepped forward, her gaze bright once more. Come, she said. The real challenge begins, and this time you cannot rely on luck alone. The human warrior nodded and followed her, heart pounding, ready to face whatever this strange, dangerous world had prepared for him next. The floating platform stretched endlessly into the mist ahead. The human warrior's heart beat fast. The warning of the princess's mother still echoed in his mind. He had survived the first tests, faced the teasing of the alien princess, and now he knew the stakes were higher than ever. Every step he took could be his last. The princess floated lightly beside him, her gown shimmering with soft light. Do you feel it? She asked. The castle? It moves, it watches, it knows where we are. The warrior nodded, his eyes scanning the path ahead. The platforms wobbled slightly beneath his feet, making him steady himself. I feel it, he said. Like the world itself is alive. She smiled faintly. Good, you are learning. But learning is not enough. We must move, quickly. Before he could ask what she meant, the air shifted violently. The glowing platforms trembled as if stirred by an unseen force. The orbs of light that had once danced playfully around them now reappeared, moving with speed and precision, forming barriers and traps. The warrior's grip on his sword tightened. This was no longer a test, it was a trap. Follow me exactly, the princess called, floating ahead with effortless grace. Do not stray. The castle will punish mistakes harshly. The warrior took a deep breath and followed, moving as carefully as possible. The platforms twisted under his feet, rising and falling like waves. One step wrong, and he would plummet into the endless abyss below. Suddenly, the platforms ahead shifted violently. A gap opened before him, wide and dark. He froze, staring down into the swirling mists. Panic clawed at his chest, but the princess's voice called out, calm and teasing. Jump. He hesitated. Jump? Yes, she laughed, a musical sound that made the air shimmer. Do not think. Just jump. The warrior's mind screamed caution, but he had no choice. He took a running start and leapt across the gap. The wind whipped past him, nearly knocking him off balance. He landed hard on the next platform, rolling to absorb the impact. Pain shot through his legs, but he forced himself up. The princess hovered above, clapping lightly. "Not bad," she said, "but the castle is not finished with us." He looked around. The platforms ahead were shifting faster, moving like serpents. Glowing vines shot up from the edges, snaking toward him like hungry creatures. He slashed at one with his sword, but it twisted away and lashed at the platform, causing it to tilt dangerously. "Keep moving," the princess called. "Do not stop. Trust me." The warrior obeyed, running and leaping across platforms as they twisted and swayed. The glowing vines lashed at him, but the princess used her powers subtly, creating small shields of light that gave him moments of safety. Her smile returned, teasing yet urgent. "Faster, faster!" The castle likes to play games, but it doesn't forgive hesitation. The wind howled around them, carrying whispers that sounded like voices, warnings, threats, or perhaps tricks of the mind. The warrior's lungs burned as he ran, every muscle straining. He felt fear gnawing at him, but he forced himself to focus on the next step, the next jump, the next chance to survive. Suddenly, the path split into two. One route led through a series of narrow, glowing bridges that wobbled dangerously. The other dropped steeply into a tunnel of swirling light. "Which way?" he asked, glancing at the princess. "Neither is easy," she said. "Choose quickly. Hesitation will cost you more than falling." The warrior took a deep breath and chose the narrow bridges. Each step was a careful balance of speed and precision. The glowing vines twisted around him, lashing and snapping. A misstep could send him tumbling into the abyss. Halfway across, one of the bridges tilted sharply. He stumbled, almost losing his balance. His sword clanged against the glowing surface, but he held on. He looked up. The princess floated above, her eyes golden and calm. "You can do this," she whispered. "Believe in yourself, human. Believe in your own strength." A surge of determination rose in his chest. Fear was still there, but now it was mixed with resolve. He focused on each step, each movement, each breath. Slowly, he crossed the final bridge, landing on solid ground once more. The princess clapped her hands softly. "Impressive," she said. "You survived the escape. But this is only the beginning." The warrior fell to his knees, breathing heavily. The adrenaline in his veins was almost painful. He had run, jumped, dodged, and fought his way across the moving platforms. He had survived the castle's traps. And yet he knew this was not over. The princess hovered close to him, her golden eyes studying him. "You are learning quickly," she said. "Clever, brave, and alive. That is rare here," he nodded, still catching his breath. I had help," he admitted. She smiled, a playful glint returning. "Perhaps. But do not forget, human. Help can only take you so far. Eventually, you must rely on yourself." He looked up at her, seeing not just a playful princess, but a guide, a challenge, and a warning all in one. Somewhere above, he knew her mother watched. The thought made his stomach tighten, but it also strengthened his resolve. The warrior rose to his feet. He had escaped this trap, survived the castle's shifting platforms, and proven even to himself that he could endure. But he knew the next test would be harder, more dangerous, and that survival alone would not be enough. The princess turned, floating gracefully ahead. "Come," she said. "There is more you must face, and this time you cannot rely on luck, speed, or strength alone. Only cunning and courage. We'll see you through." The warrior nodded. He adjusted his sword, took a deep breath, and followed her into the unknown. The human warrior followed the princess through a narrow corridor that twisted like a living serpent. The walls pulsed with soft light, casting long shadows that danced across the floor. Every step felt watched, every sound amplified. He could still feel the warning from the princess's mother lingering in the air, a presence that made his skin tingle and his chest tighten. The princess floated ahead, her gown flowing like liquid starlight. She glanced back at him, golden eyes bright with mischief, but her voice was serious now. "We cannot face the next test without a plan," she said. "The castle does not forgive mistakes. Every trap, every challenge. It will exploit weakness." The warrior nodded. "What kind of plan?" he asked, gripping his sword tightly. She stopped and turned, floating in the air so gracefully that he almost expected her to vanish. "A plan of movement, timing, and deception. The castle responds to power, it senses strength and weakness. If we act openly, it will trap us. But if we act cleverly," she smiled faintly, a mix of playfulness and calculation. We might have a chance. The warrior's mind raced. Cleverness had saved him before, but he had never relied on strategy alone in battle. Now he realized that raw strength would not carry him through this world. He needed to think like the princess, anticipate the traps, and stay one step ahead of the castle itself. The princess pointed to a series of doors ahead. Each was covered in glowing runes, strange symbols that pulsed with energy. One of these doors leads to the next platform, she said. The others lead to danger or worse. The warrior studied the doors. There was no visible pattern, no obvious choice. His heart pounded. He had survived so far, but now the challenge was mental as well as physical. Observe the energy, the princess whispered. The doors that glow steadier are safer. Those that flicker, hesitate, or pulse too quickly, avoid them. The castle is alive. It senses hesitation and fear. Move confidently. He nodded, focusing on the glowing symbols. Slowly, he moved toward a door with steady light. The others flickered ominously. The princess followed him, a quiet shadow at his side. As they entered, the corridor changed suddenly. The walls seemed to shift, the floor tilting slightly, and the air grew colder. A faint hum filled the space, vibrating in his chest. It was clear the castle was testing them again, this time their coordination. Stay close, the princess whispered. The traps are subtle now. Not all are visible. Some are in the air, some in the ground. Listen, feel, anticipate. The warrior focused, stepping carefully. Each footfall measured, each movement deliberate. Small orbs of light darted toward them, snapping like tiny bolts of energy. He dodged, rolled, and swung his sword, guided by the princess's subtle gestures. She did not attack the orbs directly, but her presence seemed to redirect them, creating small windows of safety. After several tense moments, they reached a wider platform. The warrior paused, his chest heaving. The princess floated a few steps ahead, her expression serious. Now comes the crucial part, she said. We must reach the heart of this section without drawing the attention of my mother. She will sense fear, doubt, hesitation, and she will intervene if she feels we are unworthy. The warrior swallowed hard. The thought of facing the princess's mother again, this time potentially in full confrontation, made his stomach tighten. How do we avoid her? He asked. The princess's eyes gleamed with cunning. Distraction, timing, and subtlety. Watch me follow my lead. Trust me, but stay alert. One mistake and the game ends. She gestured, and a series of glowing panels shifted along the floor, creating a path that seemed almost invisible. Follow these carefully, she whispered. Do not step off. If the castle senses hesitation, it will close the path and we fall. The warrior moved slowly, following the panels as the princess led the way. Each step required precision. The glowing path shifted slightly under their weight, forcing them to adapt, anticipate, and stay alert. Suddenly, a shadow flickered across the walls. The princess froze. Mother, she whispered. She is near. We must move faster but carefully. The warrior's heart pounded. This was no longer a test of courage alone, it was a test of cunning, teamwork, and trust. He realized he was learning to move as the princess did, anticipating, thinking ahead, and acting with purpose. They reached a narrow platform that extended over a void. The glowing path disappeared, leaving only a thin strip of solid stone. The warrior hesitated. A misstep here would be fatal. Trust me, the princess said, her hand briefly touching his shoulder. Focus not on the drop, but on the path, one step at a time. He nodded, stepping carefully. The platform wobbled slightly under his weight, but he forced himself forward. Behind him, the princess's light shimmered, guiding him. Slowly, deliberately, he crossed. Finally, they reached a small chamber, safe for the moment. The princess turned to him, her expression a mix of relief and admiration. You are learning quickly, she said. Clever, brave, and capable of following a plan. Few survive this far, human. Few are still with their wits intact. The warrior exhaled, his chest heaving. I couldn't have done it without you, he admitted. The princess's eyes sparkled. Perhaps. But remember, human, the real test is ahead. Strength, cunning, and courage. All will be needed. And my mother, she watches always. The next challenge will not forgive hesitation. The warrior nodded, feeling a strange mix of fear and excitement. He had survived the escape, followed the secret plan, and proven that he could think under pressure. But he knew the true trials were still to come, and that the shadow of the princess's mother loomed over them. Silent, powerful, and unpredictable. He straightened, gripping his sword. He had a plan now, and he had learned to trust the princess. But trust alone would not be enough. To survive this world, he would need every skill, every thought, and every ounce of courage he possessed. The princess stepped ahead, her glowing gown reflecting on the walls. "Come," she said softly. "The next challenge awaits. Are you ready, human?" The warrior nodded, feeling a surge of determination. "I am ready," he said, and together, they moved forward, deeper into the living castle, where danger, mystery, and the true test of courage awaited. The air in the floating castle grew colder as the human warrior followed the princess into a massive chamber. The walls shimmered with an almost liquid glow, pulsing softly like a heartbeat. The platforms beneath them were solid, yet the faint hum of energy made him feel as if the entire room were alive. Every step felt heavy, every breath a reminder that the princess's mother was near. "She is waiting," the princess whispered, her golden eyes serious. "And she will know immediately if you falter." The warrior swallowed hard. His heart pounded in his chest. He had faced danger before, but nothing like this. This was not a fight of strength alone. This was a test of courage, cleverness, and instinct, and the stakes were higher than he could have imagined. A shadow shifted at the far end of the chamber. The princess's mother appeared, her tall figure radiating power. The air seemed to tighten around her. Every glowing panel on the floor pulsed brighter as she stepped forward. Her eyes, dark and commanding, swept over the warrior. He felt a weight press down on him, not physical, but mental, a challenge that tested his spirit as much as his body. "Child," her voice echoed through the chamber, deep and resonant. "You have survived much to reach this point. Yet courage alone does not prove worth. You must show wisdom, strength, and control." The warrior raised his sword instinctively, but the mother's eyes bored into him. He felt frozen, as if the weapon in his hand weighed a ton. He realized quickly that this was not a fight he could win with brute force. The princess stepped closer to him, her expression a mixture of concern and determination. "Do not try to fight her," she whispered. "This is not about swords or strength. It is about survival, understanding, and showing respect. One wrong move and it ends here." The warrior nodded, feeling both fear and focus rise in equal measure. He had learned to trust her guidance, but the mother's presence was overwhelming. "You have come far, human," the mother said, her voice softening slightly but still firm. "Few outsiders reach this level of my daughter's tests, yet you are still unproven. Show me why you belong here." The princess moved behind him, lightly placing her hand on his shoulder. "Remember what we practiced," she whispered. "Cleverness and courage, human. Focus, act deliberately." The warrior inhaled deeply and took a slow step forward. The chamber seemed to respond, the glowing walls pulsing faster, the air vibrating as if testing him. Then, without warning, panels of the floor shifted, creating gaps and rising spikes. The warrior jumped and rolled instinctively, barely avoiding the deadly traps. The mother's eyes followed his movements. "Good reflexes," she said. "But reflexes alone are meaningless. Show me your mind." The warrior's gaze met the princess's. She nodded slightly, a silent signal to trust his instincts. He noticed the pattern in the floor tiles, the way some shimmered brighter and some dimmed slightly before moving. Slowly, he began to anticipate the castle's traps, stepping only where the energy suggested stability. A narrow platform rose ahead, and the warrior prepared to jump, but the mother raised a hand. A pulse of energy shot toward him, forcing him to the ground. He rolled, narrowly avoiding the blast, and got up quickly. The princess's mother smiled faintly. "Clever, you adapt. But will you survive under pressure?" The warrior tightened his grip on his sword, though he knew it was less a weapon and more a symbol of courage here. He focused entirely on timing, movement, and observation. Each trap, each shift of the platforms tested him. Yet with each step he felt a growing confidence. Not arrogance, but a calm determination that steadied his nerves. The princess floated beside him, guiding him with small gestures, subtle directions. "Watch the shadows," she whispered. "They show the energy before it moves. Timing, human. Timing is everything." He followed her guidance, stepping lightly, moving deliberately. The mother's eyes narrowed, then widened slightly in recognition. "Impressive," she said softly. "You are learning faster than I expected." Suddenly, a pulse of energy shot from the walls toward the princess. The warrior acted instinctively, stepping in front of her, deflecting it with his sword. Sparks of light danced across the metal, and for a moment the mother's face showed surprise. "You protect well," she said. "But protection alone is not enough. The warrior nodded, his chest heaving, yet his mind clear. This confrontation was not just about surviving traps or attacks, it was about understanding, trust, and respect. He moved with deliberate precision, anticipating each shift in the chamber, each pulse of energy. Finally, he reached the far side, a platform safe and solid. The mother studied him, her expression unreadable. After a tense moment, she inclined her head slightly. "You have survived my test," she said. "Clever, brave, and controlled. Perhaps you have a place in this world." The warrior exhaled, relief washing over him. He had faced the ultimate confrontation, the judgment of a being far stronger and wiser than any he had known. And he had survived. The princess floated beside him, a small smile returning to her golden eyes. "You did well, human," she said softly. "But remember, this world still has many tests. And my mother, she watches always." He nodded, still breathing heavily. "I understand," he said. "I will be ready." The princess glanced at him, her eyes serious yet playful. "Good," she said, "because the next step will demand everything you have. Strength, courage, cleverness, and something more." Together they moved forward, deeper into the heart of the castle, where the final test awaited. A challenge that would push the warrior further than he had ever imagined. The human warrior stood on the final platform, his chest heaving, sweat trickling down his face. The princess floated beside him, her golden eyes glowing softly in the dim light of the chamber. The journey through the floating castle, the traps, the teasing, and the confrontations had brought him here, the heart of the alien world's test. "Are you ready?" the princess asked, her voice soft but serious. "The final challenge is before you. One mistake now, and it may cost everything." The warrior gripped his sword tightly. He had faced danger, fear, and cunning traps, but this felt different. This was not just about survival. It was about proving himself, showing respect, and understanding the world he had entered. "Ready?" he said firmly, though his mind raced. The air shifted. Light pulsed along the walls, flowing toward them like liquid fire. From the shadows, the princess's mother emerged, her figure commanding and radiant. Her eyes locked onto the warrior, piercing and unyielding. He felt a chill run through him, but he held his ground. "You have survived," she said, her voice echoing in the chamber. "You have shown courage, cleverness, and control. Yet the final test is to understand the balance of this world and the power you face." The warrior's eyes darted to the glowing panels beneath them. They shifted suddenly, forming paths that rose and fell, some leading into darkness, others shimmering with light. He realized that the castle itself was alive, its energy sensing their every move. The princess stepped forward, her hand brushing lightly against his shoulder. "Remember," she whispered, "trust yourself, but trust me as well. One misstep now, and the balance shifts." He nodded, focusing. The mother's gaze did not waver. Her presence was heavy, yet he no longer felt paralyzed. He had survived too much, learned too much, and he knew now that hesitation would be more dangerous than action. Suddenly, the mother raised her hand. Energy shot toward the warrior, but this time he anticipated it. He leapt aside, landing on a glowing panel just as the attack dissipated into light. The princess's hand glowed beside him, guiding him subtly, shielding him just enough to continue. "Good," the mother said. "You are learning the rhythm of this place. You are beginning to understand." The warrior moved carefully, stepping from one platform to another. Each step required focus, timing, and courage. He felt the pulse of the castle beneath his feet, the subtle shifts in energy, the way the walls seemed to breathe with power. Every step was a lesson, every choice a test. The princess floated beside him, her expression unreadable. "Almost there," she whispered. "The last step requires more than skill. It requires trust." The warrior's heart pounded. He looked ahead to the final platform. It floated over a chasm so deep that he could not see the bottom. Energy pulsed between them and the platform, and he realized that to reach it he would have to jump without hesitation, trusting both his instincts and the princess. He inhaled deeply, steeling himself. "I trust you," he said quietly. The princess's eyes softened. "Then follow me," she said, her voice calm. She extended her hand, guiding him. Together they leaped across the chasm. The wind roared, the energy surged, and for a moment it felt as if they were flying. He landed safely on the final platform, chest heaving, sweat and fear mingling with relief. The mother stepped forward, her gaze softer now, though still commanding. "You have proven yourself," she said. "Clever, brave, and worthy. Not many outsiders survive my daughter's tests, and fewer still understand the balance of this world. You have done both." The warrior felt a surge of pride, but also humility. He had survived, but he had learned so much. He had learned that strength alone was not enough. Trust, cleverness, courage, and respect were just as important, sometimes more so. The princess floated closer, smiling faintly. "You did well, human," she said. "You survived the traps, the teasing, even my mother's judgment. Few have done what you have done." He nodded, still catching his breath. "Thank you for guiding me," he said. She tilted her head. "You guided yourself as much as I guided you. That is what matters. Courage and cleverness come from within. I only helped you see it." The mother's gaze softened further. "Remember this," she said. "The world you have entered is dangerous, but it is also alive. It rewards those who respect it, those who learn, those who adapt. Today you have taken the first step. Tomorrow, the test will continue." The warrior felt a mixture of relief, pride, and anticipation. He had survived, but he knew this was only the beginning. The castle, the princess, her mother, the mysteries of this alien world were far from finished. The princess extended her hand to him. "Are you ready to continue?" she asked. He nodded firmly. "I am ready." She smiled, a playful glint returning to her golden eyes. "Good," she said, "because the adventure has only just begun. And the castle, it has many more lessons to teach." The human warrior took a deep breath, gripping his sword once more. He had faced danger, fear, and cunning tests, and he had survived. But he knew the journey ahead would demand even more courage, cleverness, and trust. Together, the warrior and the princess moved forward, deeper into the living castle, ready for the next challenge, ready for the unknown, and ready for the adventure that awaited them beyond the shadows. And somewhere above, unseen but ever watchful, the mother's eyes glimmered, hinting that even greater tests and greater mysteries still lay ahead.